Let's start by showing you a tier 16 map with the Delirium mirror. Now, I have the node on the Atlas tree to make the Delirium increase 50% faster, but what I want to show you is that you can still cut through this thing like butter. Now, there's an important thing to know about Sentinels. They have a delay in their cast, and our damage is so darn high and fast that if you press Sentinel while you're still casting Spark, you'll kill all the mobs before they get empowered, which means no bonus loots. And you know what? I like bonus loots. So let me tell you how I'm solving that problem. So what I do is I pop the red Sentinel and leap slam until the charges go out. Then I backtrack and I clear. That makes sure that I didn't kill any of the monsters before they got empowered. For blue Sentinels, I group up a screen of monsters, press the empower button, and leap away. The blue Sentinels shoot from where you are when you press, so you can keep moving while it's casting and you won't be surrounded immediately. Now in this showcase, what I'm going to be covering is the main questions that people have been asking me and the main things that you can mess up and the build will not feel good. And I'm also going to tell you how to recover on the build. So make sure that you're not skipping those parts, otherwise you're going to have a really bad time. Just to illustrate how high our damage is, this is a 7 essence monster in 6-layer Delirium, and I also have the node on the tree that makes them have 50% more life. So yeah, pretty high damage to be able to kill it that quickly, and we're not even fully ramped. Also, if you want updated guides, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel because I put out updates periodically and you'll miss those. Do you want to miss them? I wouldn't want to miss them. Okay, so from the top, when we get into the map, we're going to press each of our flasks. And our flask gives us all the resist because we have to counteract the less res that we're getting from our staff. Without having good flasks, the build does not function. So you have to be crafting or buying these flasks. The belt works such that it gives us Soul Eater while we have flasks active, which means you cannot hit your flasks again. If you hit it again, you lose your Soul Eater, then you have problems. Now right here, you're gonna see my blue empower. See, I'm gathering, hit it, blue. Now we can blow this up and we get our loot explosion. Pathetic loot explosion that time. And now we do another blue pack, and now we've already used all of our Sentinels. There we go, a little bit better. Oh crap, I leveled up. You know, it's not good to level up. You know why? Because people are like, well, you have no EXP in the build, so it's kind of sus. No EXP, bad build, bad build, bad build. Ha, Polly, bad build. Yeah, I don't know. Someone said one time, oh, well, if you don't have a lot of EXP, then it's probably not a good build. They don't actually look at any of the facts of what a build does. It just, they just want to repeat that part. So I don't know, do you guys often repeat what just other people say out of context, or what's going on here? Okay, what was I supposed to be doing? Oh yeah, I was supposed to be explaining to you how the build works. So anyways, we get a bunch of stacks, then we have like 1,000 cast speed, yada, yada, yada. We also have a inspired learning in the build, and that allows us to steal buffs from the rares. So it's like a mini Headhunter. It's probably better than Headhunter, or equivalent to Headhunter now that they kind of gutted Headhunter. And then the other cheese that we're using is the GULL, which is super juiced up shrines. Now, the shrines, you definitely want to be using the GULL because even the small shrines are very helpful to you, especially when you lose your flasks. Now, make sure when you're running around looting the map that you repress your flasks, otherwise you're not going to be kept on res and you're going to die to some stragglers. Now, if you do not have flash charges at any point in time, just make a portal, leave the map, go back to your hideout, go back into the map, you'll have full flash charges, and you can just re-ramp. You don't need to do that, but you can do that if you're more comfortable with it. One of them gives max res and just a crap load of resist. So if your flasks wear off, you're going to be fine, but the max res helps you live. Another one gives you armor and evasion. You have really, really high armor, then it really helps to counteract things like bleeds. Now, I also have a rejuvenation shrine here, so that gives you life and mana regen. So very nice things to have. It's going to help a lot. So make sure you pick up the mini shrines, make sure you're using a GULL. Don't worry so much about the number of projectiles on this or getting the divergent spark. Those are the last things you should buy for the build. Now let's cover two very important parts, our life and our mana. So how are we dealing with dots? How are we dealing with our life sustain? So I chose to get recoup on my chest, recoup on a ring, that helps. But more importantly, I have life gained on hit with spells on a ring. So important. And why is this important? Spark can hit every 0.6 seconds. It lasts 3.2 seconds, so it can hit 5 times in many situations. So we're casting 20, 30 sparks per second. What we're actually doing is hitting 150 times per second. Multiply that by 15 to 18 for the life gain on hit for spells. And we're basically getting topped off on a single enemy, let alone if there's a screen of enemies instantly. Then from our gloves, we have 0.2% lightning leech. So we have leech. We have regen from vitality. So just tons and tons of things. And then if we do not have adrenaline up and we get to half health, we'll get a nice little HP boost and it'll remove all the negative side effects. Additionally, I'm basically immune to shock because I have 50% reduced effect to shock from a flask, and then I have a 50% reduced effect to shock from a ring. Then we're also curse immune because on a flask we have 50% reduced effect of curses, and when you're on consecrated ground, you have reduced effect of curses. And our zealotry is giving us consecrated ground, so we're basically curse immune. Makes things a lot easier. Then, as far as burning ground immune, that's something that's really easy to die to. Well, we're using the minor pantheon that it gives us immunity to burning ground. And that's also why we're running Searing Exarch and not the other side. That plus the other side on the altars gives resist to the monsters of lightning, where this side gives fire, and we're all lightning damage, so resists are really, really bad for the monsters to have of lightning. We also picked up Blood Drinker, which gives us 2% of life gained on kill. So when we're blowing up a pack, we're getting 50% of our life or more back from that. So we could just play quicker to top off if we're bleeding or something like that. And we have many, many layers to recover our health. Then for mana, we have Mind Drinker node, which gives us 2% mana gained on kill. Now we grab Mana Mastery attached to the Mind Drinker, and that gives us 10% reduced mana cost of skills. I'm using an alternate quality inspiration, which gives me an extra 10% reduced mana of skills. Then on a flask, I've crafted 25% reduced mana cost of skills during flask effect. Now you can get that by unveiling a unique flask that comes from Betrayal. So just buy a couple flasks. They're very cheap that are unveiled. Veil them yourself and you'll unlock that craft. All this combined in combination with a ring that has minus cost of non-channeling skills is going to bring your spark down to 10 mana cost. Now, we can counteract that by getting good regen, and part of getting the good regen is we're going to use in our main links Arcane Surge. Now, Arcane Surge pops off every time we spend 400 mana, and it gives us a huge mana regeneration boost, and then we can mostly counteract things because we have about 90 mana regen per second. Now that's not enough when we're going crazy, and the only way to really solve that is either get another ring that is minus mana cost so that you can cast 20 per second, but I was not able to find a good one that also had the other stats on it that I wanted. So now on bosses, or when I really need to get out the damage, I just pop Ball Clarity, and that makes all skills cost no mana for the whole duration of it. So you get 8 seconds of just spamming out ability. For recapping mana, 2% gain on kill from Mind Drinker, reduce mana cost of skills from Mana Mastery, a flask, inspiration, and then we have minus mana cost of skills from a ring, and then lastly we have Ball Clarity as a back. Now let's talk about lightning penetration. Very, very important topic, because you see GGG went overboard. They're just like, you get lightning resist and you get lightning resist. How about some max lightning resist? Yeah, kind of crazy. So basically the way resist work is it reduces the damage that you take. So if they have 75 resist and you do 100 hit, it only does 25 damage. So getting your pen to a point where you're completely ignoring their resist, very good, because then they'll take 100 damage when you do 100 damage instead of 25, okay? So, sources of lightning pen. We're getting 6% on the tree. We are getting some from a Watcher's Eye, and then we are getting some from lightning pen. Eventually invest in Awakened Lightning Pen, and that will actually also give you lightning exposure if you get a level 5 Awakened Light. Now let's talk about playstyle. So when you get in your map, you're going to want to hit all your flasks so that you're capped on res. Then we have haste set up, and we have that linked with life tap divine blessing and increased duration. This costs 2,600 life, so it's gonna bring you down to below half life, and that procs adrenaline for you. Then basically you just leap slam around and cast spark in between, and then for harder enemies you cast smite. Now we are using Sniper's Mark, linked to Mark on Hit. Mark on Hit doesn't have to be linked to Smite. It will apply the mark. So you need to hit the enemy to get this, and this gives you a more damage multiplier. So really important to be doing that on the bosses. Smite also gives a crap ton of flat added lightning, which is going to amplify your damage. So any hard mod you really want to be hitting. We also have built in here Molten Shell that auto goes off when we take a little bit of damage. And since our armor is decently high, we are getting a pretty massive shield. And then because everything has ridiculous regen now, I don't know why, I added in a cast when damage taken frost bomb. So this is going to reduce the life regeneration. Neat little trick to help with clear. Then of course, we also have Vol Clarity, which we're using to just crap out a million sparks whenever we have a boss. All right, so let's look at gear. So flasks, we need high increased duration, and we want implicit increased duration. You can get implicit increased duration from enkindling orbs. This one, you spam that in, is a variable range, so you're gonna have to use some of those. So what we want is definitely reduced effect of curses. We definitely need reduced mana cost of skills on a flask, which you get that from, like I said, the crafting bench itself, and you unlock that from the unique flask, so buy that and unveil it yourself. Reduced effect of shock, which when combined with the ring gives us 100%, and then we're going to want an all resist on a flask as well. Then we have one open slot, and for this one you could use percent armor. I just happen to hit this cast speed, so I just kind of stuck with it, but having more armor is probably better. You also don't have to use this flask. You could use a basalt to get even more armor, but I use this one because I'm grabbing the node that increases the effect of the flask, and this gives us 44% increased damage, and we're pretty low on increased damage, so it helps with our damage. So for items, we're using the Annihilating Light. We want this on the lower end because this reduces all elemental resist. It's not minus resist, it's reduced, which really should be saying less, because it's like multiplying all your resists significantly and lowering them. So you got to counteract it. That's why we have to use all the resists on the flask. Then we're using a Gull with a 3 spark projectile enchant. Now you want to use the Gull. Don't worry about spark fires 3 additional projectiles. I played this quite a bit without having that, or having the 2 additional projectiles from Divergent Spark. You do not need that. That's one of the last things that you should invest in this build. Then we're using Solstice Vigil. Now, what this does is give Shaper's Present for 10 seconds when we kill a rare or unique enemy. And what that does is it slows the buffs on you, so they last long. And that actually also applies to shrines. It applies to the Headhunter buffs you're going to steal from Empowered Learning. But more importantly, it also applies to your flasks, making your flasks even longer. So right now I'm set up with 45% duration for the flasks, and then when I hit that, I'm getting like 52-second flasks or higher. So you could very easily clear a map in that without even having to refresh your flask. Of course, if you're playing slower, you might have to refresh one time, but at most you're doing 2 refreshes on your flasks. Then for a ring, I'm using damage taken recouped as life, really important mod. And then also the life gain and hit for each enemy by your spells, another very important mod. Then for my other ring, I just have a crap ton of resist because I still needed more to make sure that I'm at cap. And then I'm getting minus total cost of skills because that's going to help make our spark cost less. Then for a chest piece, I just grab one with life and some chaos res, and then I was low on strength, so I had to balance the strength, so I crafted 30 strength. And then I got some implicits. One of them was recoup. It's just nice having all that recoup. And then I got a little bit of determination R effect on it, which helps with our armor. Then for gloves, you want to get the implicits. You absolutely need the lightning damage leeches life. Getting the shock is optional, but the lightning damage leeches life. Very, very good. If you're going to use Impulsa, which a lot of people are opting to do, then you definitely need the shock pro lift. So we just have life and some chaos res and some other res. And then I had an open prefix, so I'm crafting damage during any flask. Then for the belt, I opted to get one with the implicit zealotry. Determination would be good, or any other implicit, but try to get one with a decent implicit. Corruption. For boots, I crafted action speed and then life regen, and then I got a pair that I couldn't be chilled. Then as far as jewels that I'm using, you get this in Act 2 from a quest. Very, very important. It increases the flask effect duration, and you need really long flasks. Then we also are using an inspired learnings. This is what is allowing us to steal the mods from the rares, and to save some points, I used on my amulet one with evil, so I don't have to spend these 3 points to get it. It requires you to pick up 4 nodes in the area. Then we want a Spark Nova, and we need some source of corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you. We cast so darn quickly that if we have a rare mob, we're just going to max out on that. We're going to kill ourselves, so you got to get some source of corrupted blood cannot be inflicted. Then I went with a Watcher's Eye, and the most important thing here is the Lightning Pen, and then I have a nice to have, which is giving me Onslaught on kill while I have haste, and I have haste for my temporary buff. For ascendancies, you do not want to play this until you have all your ascendancies. Don't try to do it. Play something else. But you would hypothetically take it first to strike, last to fall, then Unstoppable Hero, then Fortitude, and lastly, Inspirational. Now this is really good because it allows us to run a banner for no reservation and increases all of our auras, and we're using 3 offensive auras and some defensive auras. For masteries, we're using more skill effect duration here. We're using effective flask here. We're using increased mana reservation efficiency. We're using more projectile speed, reduced mana cost of skills, vitality mana reservation efficiency, auras from your skills have increased effect, 8% increased damage for each aura or herald on you, and we have a ton of those. And then one of the most important ones here, lightning damage with non-crits is lucky. That's worth like 33% more multiplier. And then this is a 40% more multiplier. So these 2 nodes giga juice our damage. Another really important thing is duration nodes right here, which we're grabbing 20% here, 10. We have the option to pick up another 10 here, and we're picking up 10, 15, and 20 here. For pantheons, I'm picking up Soul of the Brine King. You want to unlock for sure the cannot be frozen, and if you do not have chill immune, you definitely want to get reduced effective chill. And then I'm using Soul of Aberath. This makes us immune to the burning ground, which basically makes the Searing Exarch minions a joke. Plus, we don't have a good way of removing Ignite, so this really helps with that. Now, if you were to get both chill immune and cannot be frozen, we do have stun immune from our ascendancy, and then you could pick up Soul of Aracali, which will help you with degens. We killed all bandits because we want them skill points. Oh yeah! For gems, we have Ball Clarity, which of course we're going to pop on the bosses so we can just blast them. Defiance Banner, we get this for free with our ascendancy, and it gives us increased armor and evasion. Determination, Smite, and with the Smite, we're actually proccing the Sniper's Mark because it's attached to Mark on hit. Then we have Wrath, Zealotry, Leap Slam to move around. Of course, Mark on hit with Sniper's Mark that I just said. Then we have Divergent Spark. Now, you do not need Divergent Spark for this build to function, so don't get hung up on the alternate quality. Now we're using Divergent Inspiration, also not a requirement. It's nice to have. Arcane Surge, Awaken Controlled Destruction, not a necessity either, but it does at level 5 give 10% chance to unnerve, which is an extra 10% more multiplier. Awaken Lightning Pen, this gives exposure, but it's not necessary. It gives a little bit extra pen if you use the Awaken as opposed to the other one. Eventually get that. And then Spell Echo support. Then we're using Frost Bomb for the reduced life regeneration, since GGG went overboard with that. Cast when damage taken and Molten Shell, so we're getting a big shield and reduce our life regen whenever we're taking a little bit of damage. Then we have vitality, just for some of that bounce back. And then we have increased duration, life tap, divine blessing, and haste. If you need additional help on the build, make sure that you join the Discord. We got lots of people on there who are also playing the build that can help you out. Also, a lot of you guys are saying, well, I don't got any friends to play the game, man. I wish I had friends. Well, come on the Discord. You can meet some people. Some people who play Path of Exile. Huh? Now, there's one really important thing to look out for called Thorn Vines. Whenever you use a movement skill, which Leap Slam counts as one, and you have this, you're going to take a damage stack. So you actually have to walk out of it. Additionally, there are a few mods that I recommend skipping. Elemental Reflect, no regen, 60% less regen, then the reduced effect of your auras because we're using a ton of auras. Buffs expire 70% faster. And then finally, poison on hit. Yuck, poison. Ugh. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like if you haven't. Consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one and hopefully on the Discord.